How was your Monday? Mine was quite busy. And it was busy largely because I had... I thought at the end of the show yesterday, I'd asked you guys, because I was going down to the Prime Minister's media conference after Cabinet, I decided to ask you guys what you wanted me to ask him. And you came up, well, it started as a quite crass question, can women have penises? And we worked it round and we talked amongst ourselves, as we do on the platform, and you guys came up with a great idea. I should ask him what a woman is. That seemed to me to be a pretty simple question. Could I also add, you're not going to read about this story anywhere else in the New Zealand media. They have collectively decided, despite the fact that this story is breaking the internet internationally and is going viral around the world, the New Zealand media, who've received hundreds of millions of dollars in government funding, don't want to talk about this story. So the question I was charged by you with asking the Prime Minister yesterday afternoon was, what is a woman? Ben, are you standing by? We'll play the audio from the press conference. Here we go.
Sean.
I just wanted to ask you, given comments by Keir Starmer in Britain, how do you and how does this government define a woman?
To be honest, Sean, that question's come slightly out of left field for me. Biology, sex, gender. People define themselves. People define their own genders.
Keir Starmer has said that he believes 99.9% of women do not have penises. And I know it's a strange thing for him to say, but given recent events in New Zealand, I'd ask again, how do you define what a woman is?
Well, I think as I've just indicated, I wasn't expecting that question, so it's not something that I've, pre-formulated an answer on. But in terms of gender identity, I think people define their gender identity for themselves.
Self-identification?
Yes.
What about, if you like, an official or a wider societal sense?
Again, I think we have rules in place now. If someone wants to change their gender on their birth certificate, for example, there's a process that they go through in order to do that. I haven't got the process chapter and verse in front of me, but it's available. Anybody can look it up and see what that process is.
Just one follow-up. You described that you thought some of Posey Parker's views were abhorrent. Could you tell us which ones?
I think some of the views being conveyed around the transgender community, some of the sentiment...
Her views?
Yes, some of the sentiment that she's expressed towards the transgender community is abhorrent in my view, well, that they shouldn't exist. And that was part of the press conference. He wasn't actually specific about where he took that quote from Posey Parker from. Let's just run through that response. Firstly, he must have expected that question. Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party in Britain, got stuck with that question, and a lot of people are being asked that question, and he should have been prepared for it. He said it, so it didn't come out of left field at all. He hadn't formulated a response to what a woman is. The man had just spent 5 minutes perpetuating the myth that his predecessor, Jacinda Ardern, was somehow the victim of misogyny, not of people disliking her performance as Prime Minister. So having defined Jacinda Ardern as a woman, and I'm not sure how he could do that given his, tenuous grasp on the concept, he then turns around and says, I don't know what a woman is, but the reason I'm standing here is because Jacinda Ardern was a woman, and the world is full of misogynists. I'm sure he thinks it's full of Nazis as well. So I almost watched, and I've gone back and watched this a few times, as have millions of people around the world, as has J.K. Rowling, as has Piers Morgan, as have all sorts of commentators and influencers around the globe, though you're not reading about it in our newspapers, and I don't know what the breakfast light entertainment shows are doing. But it is number one trend, or I'm number one trend. Hipkins has been number 2 trend on Twitter for quite some time now. So Jacinda Ardern was ousted from office, according to Chris Hipkins, because she was a woman, but he can't actually tell us what a woman is exactly. Maybe it was because she was shit at her job. Just an idea, Chris Hipkins. And do you really need to have forewarning to formulate a response to that question? Now, I do note that I think it was Jenna Lynch from TV3 groaned when I asked the question, which I think is a bit rude. Having been in the press gallery for quite some time, I think that's just rude. And not one other journalist asked a question pertinent to this, apart from one person who wanted him to say something nice about some rally in Wellington last Sunday, which he obliged by doing. And I'm not sure if I should share this with you, but I will. There was a person of transgender in the press gallery, in the press gallery, and they came up to me afterwards. And fair enough. And they said, "Well, what's your definition of a woman?" And I said, "Please don't take this personally. I was doing my job. I was asking a question that my audience wanted answered, even though it wasn't." And I said to this person, "My definition of a woman is we're all human beings and we all have human rights. And these are difficult issues, but they are issues we must discuss. And it is not good enough for an ideologically..." And look, what was happening actually in Hipkins' head as I asked the question was he was going, "Oh my God, I know the answer to this one. I know exactly the answer to this one, but if I say it, the religious nutters into identity politics on the left of the political spectrum are going to eviscerate me." What I saw in his eyes was fear. Fear of telling his truth. And that's why he couldn't answer the question. Because the Labour Party and the left are riven with identity politics, which is anti-science and anti-fact, anti-reality. You can answer that question honestly and not be hating on anyone and not be trying to erase people who don't fit into societal norms of sexuality. There is a way forward, but only if we talk with each other and we are honest with each other. I am disappointed that our Prime Minister couldn't be. That our politics and the party that he represents, with a proud tradition, is so infected with religious fervour that he looked to all the world, literally, like an idiot. Now, as I said, of course, I was treated like a leper by the other journalists as I left the press gallery, which I'm accredited to. There were a bunch of students from Massey University, journalism students, sitting right to me. I thought they thought it was pretty cool. And I'm sorry you guys didn't get to answer a question. And then, of course, it blew up. It blew up the internet. But the funny thing is, as I said, I opened the paper today. I opened the newspaper today, the Dominion Post, run by Stuff, and the page 3 lead is not that the Prime Minister of New Zealand cannot define what a woman is. The headline is, "Broadcaster Sean Plunket's account suspended by Twitter." Well, I don't know. I haven't had a lot of time to look into this, but it seems to have excited people that I've been trolled by a bunch of haters, a bunch of anti-woman activists, and free speech opponents on Twitter. And look, I'll get to it at some stage, but for God's sake, it's only Twitter. 9% of New Zealanders use Twitter. I had, I think, 18,000 followers. And I said what I thought on Twitter, as we say what we think here on the platform. So I do not know where your news judgment is, New Zealand media, mainstream legacy media. But to think my personal social media account is more important than a Prime Minister failing to know what a woman is seems jolly strange to me.